Hello and welcome to another FAST class. My name is Christian Mowat. I'm a senior ERP technical consultant at Syvantis Technologies. Today we're going to be looking at a topic that is often overlooked, but it's a large part of lists and the user experience in Business Central. And that's going to be searching, sorting, and filtering. Before we go further, let's take a look at those three words and what they mean in Dynamics BC. Search is simple and broad. It matches records across any visible fields on the page, and it's not case sensitive. When I'm talking about filtering, it's highly flexible and it can be applied to specific fields, including those not visible on the page. It displays records with the exact case sensitive matches, but it can be adjusted with search symbols or formulas, as we're going to see. And lastly, sorting. Sorting is chosen on a column by column basis, and it's either ascending or descending. If you sort ascending on alphanumeric columns, the characters 1, 2, 3 would be at the top and XYZ would be at the bottom. For the purposes of this video, I'm going to be in the vendor list. So let's navigate there. Click my search bar and search for vendors. And we're going to choose our vendor list. Now, let's look at the different ways that searches are implemented in Business Central. If you search for man with all lowercase and man with an uppercase, you see that the searches, it finds different placements of man in the vendor's name, like German Performance Manufacturing, regardless of where it falls in the name. There's a couple often used modifiers to searches, filters, and sorting that I want to identify to help you refine your queries. If you place an asterisk after the search term, so let's just put an asterisk there. That's what's called a wildcard. So what it's going to do is it's going to search for terms where the vendor name begins with man in the first word, such as Mandalay or Manor Rock. If you place the wildcard before the search term, it'll look for words where the last word ends with man. So if I swap this out, see we get red for man, and then these other two that are man. All the ones that had man at the beginning are gone because they do not end with this. Okay, another modifier we can use is single quotes. So if I place single quotes around the word man, you see that it's not case sensitive, but it is going to return only results where the name matches 100% with whatever I've put inside my single quote. So man are the only two that are returned. Again, if I have no single quotes, it's going to return everything where man is in the word. Okay. So we can get more specific if we use filter operations, and there's three ways to open the filter pane. So I already have that open now, so I'm going to close that. The first way that we can open that filter pane up is over on the right hand side here. There's a little filter icon, so I can just click on that. That's going to pop open my filter pane. And the next way you can do it, if you wish to filter on a specific field, you can click the down arrow here, and then there's an option to select a filter here. So if I click filter there, that pops up my filter pane, and it already has that field ready for me to enter my filter in. Another thing I can do is if I know, like, hey, I want to filter on the number column, but I already know that I want to filter specifically on this vendor, or whatever value I want to filter on, I can click this down arrow. Instead of filter, I'll choose filter to this value. And the only downside of doing it this way is it will set the filter in the background. It won't actually pop the filter pane up on the left side, but we can just click filter pane here, and you can see that it automatically set that filter for me. So I'm going to clear that out, close this. And the last way, if you're into keyboard shortcuts, the last way that you can open the filter pane is by holding Shift and pressing the F3 key, and that will pop open the filter pane as well. All right, so let's stay on vendors with mostly the alphanumeric fields for filters, just to start off this this fast class. So similar to searching, you can search for terms, but filtering is case sensitive. If you just type in the filter box, it's going to act like a search with the single quotes, or in other words, it's going to look only for exact matches. So if I set a filter on, oh, let's go with, let's close that. Let's filter on the name instead this time. Okay, and I'm going to put man in. Okay, and it's going to only return that, it's only going to return the name that's exactly matched up with what I've entered here. It's using single quotes and it's case sensitive. There is a modifier that can help us with this. If you add the @ symbol to tell BC to search for upper and lower case matches, then that's going to throw a wider net on the vendor names. And that can be useful if you don't know the exact spelling of a business. Perhaps they have a non-typical spelling. So filtering man wildcard and uppercase man wildcard. And by that, I mean man with the asterisk or lowercase man with the asterisk. Those yield different results. So what we can do is put the @ symbol before that. And that's going to return regardless of the case that's being used. So it's going to return us as if we used it in the search bar up here. Regardless of the case, it'll return anything that starts with man. Okay. The other filter modifier we often see used in the alphanumeric fields is the question mark. And this is really helpful for filtering when you know almost all the vendor name, but you're unsure of a character that's in it. Think about Hansen with an O or E, or any name that has Berg at the end. If you don't know if it contains a U or an E, you can replace that mystery character with a question mark and search for either. So if I take my filter out of here, let's just use Hansen as an example. Take Hans, let's say I'm not sure if that's an O or an E there. I can just put a question mark and then N. And that would return either Hansen or Hansen, just anything that matches with that. But if it's a word with a few common spellings or homonyms, it might have several different spots with unknown letters. And as long as it's just one character at a time, the question mark can serve to help you search faster. So we can actually put that question mark in multiple spots. So if I take this out, put another question mark here, let's say these are my unknown characters, but I know that H and S and N go in those spots. It's going to return the following search results for me. Okay. So after you've set filters on a page, depending on what you're looking at, you may want to save that view so that you don't have to re-put those filters in later. You can save common views you might want to see, such as vendor numbers that you use for ACH vendors, balance due above a certain amount, vendors in certain states or states, any specific company requirements that you need to be able to come back to. You can look back on our very first fast class, create and share custom views, edit company badge, and style the banner in BC to see how these filter settings and views can be shared among your organization. We'll have someone link that in the chat shortly, but just a side note for you, you can click save as here, give this view a name, and it'll save those filters for you. All right, back to filtering. So after saving your view as you like, or clearing it if it was just a one-time thing, let's head over to the chart of accounts to look at some searches that are primarily used for numeric values. Okay, so I'm going to search chart of accounts here. A lot of what we're about to do here in the chart of accounts can also be done in account schedules, which as of BC version 21, or the most recent major update, which was in October, account schedules are now going to be called financial reports in Business Central SAS, which I'm sure we'll have a fast class on in the future, but just mentioning it here mostly for demonstrative purposes. So let's open up the filter menu again. Okay, and we're going to filter on the number column. And the first filter operator is going to be a range. And this is shown in Business Central as 2 periods. This differs from most search operators using hyphens and 3 dots. So be careful to make sure that you're only using 2. And if you want to view for only asset accounts, for example, I can put my range, which is going to be account 10,000 ... 19999. Okay, so that's only gonna filter on my asset accounts. Okay, if ranges are too broad, with only certain accounts needed for this view, you can use the vertical bar commonly found above the enter key with the backslash key. This functions as the OR operator. So if you need small numbers of accounts and you need to tie them together, you can tie them together with that vertical bar and it'll bring up any account that matches those account numbers. So for example, if I only want to see account 10,001, also 20,001, or 61,990, I can use that type symbol as my OR. So show me accounts that are this one, or this one, or this one. Okay. The last specific search term that we're going to look at is the ampersand, or commonly it's called just the and sign. It can string together two different search terms and find those that match both of the search terms. So say you find yourself staring at a large list of accounts and you want to find one specific account, but you can't remember a lot of the defining characteristics of it. You only remember two things. It's an asset and it had a 5 in it. Using the and symbol, we're going to be able to narrow down the list to help find the account faster. The first term would be the one wildcard. We enter that 1 plus the asterisk, which is our wildcard, to choose only assets. And the second is going to be the wildcard followed by a 5 and then another wildcard. So we can string that together by adding our ampersand, and then we'll put asterisk 5 asterisk. So what I'm saying here is it's, you know, the number starts with 1 and it contains, that's what the double asterisk here signifies, contains 5. So I'm going to click enter there, and there we have it. Other operators with numbers are the not equal to, being the greater than or less than, to find fields that do not equal your search. The greater than or equal to, less than, and less than or equal to all operate similarly, but you have to be careful because wildcards cannot be used with operators equal, range, greater than, less than, greater than or equal to, and less than or equal to. That's a lot of words, but essentially what we're saying is if you put, you know, let's use this for example, use our less than, and then we'll put, you know, 1 and a wildcard. If you click enter on that, you're just going to get a big long error message that says, hey, you can't use wildcards with these symbols. Okay, but I could say use the greater than and the less than together with a wildcard to say it doesn't start with 1. And that's going to exclude that from my filter. Okay. Something else I want to touch on is filter tokens. When entering filter criteria, you can also type words that have special meaning called filter tokens. After entering the token word, the word is replaced by the value or values that it represents. Filter tokens make filtering easier by reducing the need to navigate to other pages to look up the values you want. These also make sharing views much easier across your organization when you have views that have personalized information like a salesperson ID or a user ID. So we're going to look at sales orders for this example. So I'm going to jump back to my home page here and click into sales orders. And I have some documents that have been assigned to my user in this test environment. That's these are assigned to the admin users, right? So that's the user that I'm currently logged in with. So if I open my filter pane here, create a new filter for the assigned user ID, and I put %me, and then I tab off of that, it's going to change this this filter to say admin, and it's filtered these records on my user. But if I click into this, you see it still has that %me token in there. So this makes it really convenient. I can save and share this view, this exact view, for others. And when they open the sales order page with this view, they're only going to see documents that are assigned to their user as long as they have access to the company and the page that I'm sharing with them. You can, again, if you click into this, you see that it's not hard coding that value. It's not hard coding my user in there. It's using this token to determine who the user is. You can check this out in our first class that we mentioned earlier. We kind of touched on this. So I'm going to go ahead and search for my vendors again. So we've learned all the operators and can combine them in many different ways. Say you have a check run that went awry and you want to see the balance due on the vendors involved. For some reason, this check run wants to search for specific vendor names that start with M and all the vendor numbers less than 500, which were ACH vendors. So let's jump into our vendor list here. And we're going to set a filter on the name field, right? So if we start with that first range, that 0 to 500, you can see some negative numbers are returned. And that's because BC sees the hyphen as a modifier, not an indicator of amount. So let's remove all those that start with the hyphen by adding the term does not equal hyphen, and we'll put our wildcard. We're going to add that to our search term. So I'm going to put does not equal, and then I'm going to have my negative followed by a wildcard, and then I'm going to put an ampersand. So essentially what I'm saying is does not start with a negative amount and is between 0 and 500. Okay, and let's click enter there. And the negative numbers are gone. Okay, and then let's say I want to find all the vendors now that begin with M, upper or lowercase. So what we're going to do is just cut this for now. We'll just put our ampersand here. Excuse me, followed by an M and an asterisk. And here are all the vendors that start with M. Okay, so now we can combine the two of these by pasting my previous filter that I put in, and then putting this pipe in between the two filters, which, if you recall, is just a way of us saying or. So meets these criteria or meets this criteria. So if we say and, that's going to pull in our results from our other filter. You can filter on multiple columns as well. If the check run was going to be delayed and maybe the payment was supposed to happen soon, you'd want to reach out quickly, but you might not be able to call all of them. So let's filter on all the companies that have blank phone numbers. There's my phone number. So we're going to add that filter there for phone number, and we're just going to put 2 single quotes in. Okay. And basically what we're saying is we want to see, the vendors that do not have a phone number filled in. So it's filtered on that for us. So we can reach out to these vendors a different way. So you can see that with filters, sorting, and searching, and the tokens that you can include as well, you can get hyper specific with the results displayed, and sometimes they'll evolve into chains of operators that really don't make sense at a glance, but once you break them down, they're more readily understandable. So always feel free to reach out for further information or training. That's going to be it for this fast class. Thank you for joining us. We'll hope you join us next week. We're going to be discussing a new feature in Dynamics 365 CRM that has been getting a lot of buzz, and it can impact your day-to-day work process, the new modern advanced find. Thanks. Have a great day.